Tokyo, the night wasn't truly over. The stadium lights had gone out. The roaring cheers of tens of thousands of ARMY slowly faded into the night, leaving behind an emotional echo that still lingered in the air. The concert had been nothing short of spectacular, filled with energy, tears, and unforgettable moments. But no one knew that the most touching story didn't happen on stage. It happened after everything ended, inside a small apartment, hidden in the heart of Tokyo, a night meant for rest. That changed everything. After the concert, Kim Tae-young and Jungkook, known worldwide as Taekook, left the venue under tight security. Their schedule had been exhausting, their bodies drained, and all they wanted that night was rest. A black car carried them through Tokyo's glowing streets. Neon lights reflected softly on the windows, illuminating their quiet expressions. There was barely any conversation, just silence and fatigue. But then something unexpected happened. Instead of heading back to their hotel, their route changed. According to an internal source, a sudden request came in, not from management, not from event organizers, but from someone they didn't personally know, a local resident of Tokyo, and somehow Tae-young and Jungkook agreed. A small apartment, a massive story. The apartment wasn't luxurious. Nothing like the five-star hotels they were used to. It stood in a quiet alley, simple and almost unnoticed. Even fans who later discovered the story were confused. Why would they go there? The door opened slowly. An elderly man stood there, welcoming them. His face was lined with age. His eyes were warm, yet carried something deeper, something heavy, something unspoken. And from that moment on, everything changed. An unexpected meeting. That felt like fate. According to a witness who later shared the story anonymously, the man was not just an ordinary fan. He had followed BTS since their early debut days, but not in the usual way. Inside the apartment were old photos, faded BTS posters, and in the corner of the room, a single empty chair that seemed to hold a deeper meaning. Tae-young noticed it first. "Who does that belong to?" he asked softly. The man didn't answer right away. He simply smiled, then sat down slowly. And that's when the story began. A story that silenced the world. The man spoke about his daughter, a devoted ARMY, a girl who grew up with BTS's music, who found hope in their lyrics, who laughed, cried, and dreamed, alongside Taekook even from afar. But she was no longer there. An illness she never spoke about had taken her away. And that very night, the night of the Tokyo concert, was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. She had bought a ticket. She had prepared her light stick. She had even written a letter. For Tae-young and Jungkook. But fate had other plans. And ever since then, the chair in the corner of the room had remained empty. Tears that couldn't be held back. The room fell silent. No cameras. No spotlight. No outside world. Just three people and a story that shattered hearts. Jungkook lowered his head. His hands clenched tightly. His breathing grew heavy. Tae-young couldn't hide his tears. For the first time that night, they weren't idols. They were simply human, and they listened. The letter that changed everything. The man then reached for an envelope, worn out but carefully preserved. She wrote this. "For you," he said. Tae-young accepted it with trembling hands. Jungkook stepped closer, and together, they read it. The letter wasn't long. It wasn't complicated, but every word felt like it carried 1,000 emotions. She wrote about how their music saved her, about her dream of seeing them one day, about how she wanted to say thank you. And at the very end, there was one line. "If one day you read this, it means I'm no longer there, but I will always love you." A moment that will never be forgotten. No one spoke for several minutes. Tae-young held the letter tightly. Jungkook wiped his face. And the man simply watched them, his eyes filled with emotion. Then something unexpected happened. Tae-young walked toward the corner and sat on the empty chair. Jungkook stood beside him, and without music, without a stage, They began to sing, softly, almost like a whisper, but enough to fill the room with something indescribable. Hope, love, and goodbye. The world begins to find out. At first, the moment remained private, but hours later, the story began to spread, from one source to another, until it went viral. Fans across the world couldn't believe it. Is this real? Why didn't they ever talk about it? How could something like this happen in silence? And the question that echoed the most, what did they truly feel that night? ARMY's reaction, tears across the globe. Social media was flooded with emotions. Many fans admitted they cried after reading the story. Some wrote, "They're not just idols. They're humans with extraordinary hearts." Others said, "She may be gone, but she received a moment beyond anything money could buy." And most agreed on one thing. That night, Taekook showed the true meaning of being artists. A mystery that remains, yet behind all the emotion, questions remain. How did this meeting happen? Who contacted them? Why did they choose to go when they were supposed to rest? And the biggest mystery of all, was it really just coincidence or something more? A moment that will live forever. Tokyo has returned to normal. The neon lights still shine. The streets are still alive, but inside a small apartment. A memory remains that will never fade. A chair that is no longer empty because it has been filled with meaning. A song that was never recorded but will live forever in hearts. And a meeting that changed everything. What happened after the song changed them even more. The final note faded into silence. No applause, no cameras flashing, no crowd screaming their names. Just a quiet room filled with something heavier than sound. For a few seconds, no one moved. Taeyoung remained seated on that chair, his fingers still lightly, gripping the edge as if letting go meant losing something important. Jungkook stood beside him, eyes lowered, breathing slowly, trying to steady himself. The elderly man wiped his tears, but a faint smile appeared on his face. For the first time that night, the atmosphere shifted. Not lighter, but calmer. As if something unfinished had finally found its ending. A conversation that was never meant for the public. What happened next was never recorded. No official statement. No behind-the-scenes footage. No staff present inside the room. But according to a second source, someone close to the situation, Taeyoung and Jungkook didn't leave immediately. They stayed. Longer than anyone expected. They sat on the floor, closer now, no longer as global superstars, but as two young men listening to a father who had lost everything. The conversation shifted from grief to memories. The man began sharing stories about his daughter, how she used to dance in the living room, copying choreography from BTS videos, how she saved money just to buy albums, how she would stay up late just to watch live streams even when she was tired. Jungkook reportedly smiled through his tears at one point. Taeyoung asked questions. Simple ones, but meaningful. What was her favorite song? What made her laugh the most? What did she want to become? And with every answer, the room filled with life again. The photo that no one has seen, but everyone talks about. Then came a moment that fans are still trying to confirm. The man brought out an old phone. Inside it, there was a photo, a picture of his daughter, smiling brightly, holding a BTS light stick, wearing a hoodie slightly too big for her frame. Taeyoung took the phone gently. Jungkook leaned closer, and for a brief moment, they both smiled, not out of happiness, but out of recognition.